Coach, your assessment of the first day.
Yeah, I told the guys earlier, I thought the mechanics of everything was really good today. And what I mean by that was, there's a lot of moving parts. Just our players getting here early and having the right frame of mind. And I thought we did as dumb as it sounds, I thought we did a really good job eating breakfast, and guys did a great job shaking out before practice, and all those kind of things that I think show that you have some maturity and some guys that understand the process of playing football. So I was encouraged by that. I can remember, again, I want to make a bunch of comparisons, but I can remember last year not feeling that way, just concerned about our approach, and that wasn't the case today. And I think, again, that all comes from maturity and leadership, and I think it comes from from us as coaches paying attention to detail, and strength and conditioning guys doing a great job over the summer. So all that was really good. Pre-practice I thought was exceptional. I thought the early part of practice was really, really good, and I thought we finished okay. I thought it was, I thought we got a little fatigued, mentally probably more than physically, and made a couple of mistakes at the end of practice and got a little lax with some of the details. But overall, I thought it was a really good first day. It was, I love the way the guys competed. I love the way, the mentality I thought was good. We're so much further along schematically right now than we were really at any point last season, I think, on both sides of the ball and special teams as well. So, I feel good about the first day, and, but like anything, we'll see. We'll know a whole lot more about this group, practice 17 and 18 and 19 and 20, and when it gets a little rough.
You had the benefit of the spring, but you do have some new faces on the coaching staff. Obviously, they went through the spring with you. That adjustment, didn't feel like that all that's over with?
Yeah, I think so. I think Jimmy and Kendall, those guys haven't been together at Arkansas. I think really made that transition smooth. I was talking to some of the players today about, just how much they enjoyed, working with Jimmy, and just how consistent his message was, and how much those guys appreciated it. So, yeah, I think we're in a good place. I really do. I think defensively, Indy has really done a good job of, just very detailed and organized and has a plan, and everything has a reason and is well thought out. And I think, again, our players have that mentality, and I think it showed today.
Coach, I know that you talked last year a lot about leadership on the team. How have you seen leadership progress from a player standpoint this year?
Yeah, a little early on day one to talk about leadership or to really know much about it. I think the guys, number one, I think all of us in this program, coaches, players, everybody associated with the program, understands how important that is and appreciates the fact that it just doesn't happen by accident. That is something that is, that's talked about and learned and practiced every single day. But, like I said, the leaders really emerge when things start to get a little tough. It's easy to be a positive vocal guy when, day one, when things are easy, and it's hard to do it when you're tired and beat up and having a bad day and don't feel your best and don't see any light at the end of the tunnel. So, my hope is those guys will continue to emerge, but I think this team, I think the guys want to have a role. I think they know that it's important to embrace their role, and so I'm encouraged by that.
What was your impressions of Josh today?
Good. I thought he was really good. I thought he threw the ball well. I thought he made good decisions. There's a lot of little things we still have to get worked out, but he's accurate. He's throws the ball on time, throws guys open. I thought he did a good job, and I think for him, it's going to be really important for him to just take the completions. What happens is as you go through fall camp, you get tired of checking the ball down, and you try to all of a sudden you try to throw it in the hole somewhere or try to force the ball here and there and you turn it over. And I think that's going to be the key for him is because he can make those throws. I mean, his arm strength is such and his ability to manipulate, throw over people and under people and throw it on time and all that. All those things result in sometimes guys taking chances and, he's just got to be satisfied checking the ball down, taking 4 or 5 yards and moving the chains and then learn when to take your shots. And so that's a process that takes place only through repetition and experience. And so, I think he'll continue to get better at those things, but I thought it was a really good, solid first day.
Coach, in addition to Josh not being in spring, you also had some other key guys out.
Yeah.
Both sides of the ball. Did you feel like they were missing a step today, or were they?
No, I thought it was good. You know what I mean? I think, we did have a lot of guys out in the spring, and, the one thing that I was really happy to see today is, just not a lot of guys in red jerseys. Nobody really. So most of our guys practiced today. We had a couple that have some lingering health issues and a couple of things that popped up over the summer. But I think this time last year, day one, I think we had 17 or 18 guys that didn't work out. And I think the number today was three or four. So I was very encouraged by that. And again, I think that is a testament to, the players and their embracing, training. I think embracing treatment. I think it's a testament to our training staff. For those guys for them to get them ready. And, not everybody went all the reps today. It wasn't like everybody was full go, but they got better. They had a chance to practice. I think it set a tone for our program. I think it creates a mentality, and it was good to see that happen today. And again, those guys stood out. I think Johnny Hodges looked like Johnny Hodges. I thought Dalen did some good things today. I think it's good to see Bless Harris doing things. It was just good to see some guys that were limited, that looked like you want them to look, this fall.
We got a chance to talk to Nana yesterday, and obviously he's coming from Notre Dame. He seems like he's really enjoying being back home.
Yep.
How has he just been in the locker room? How's he had
Yeah, he's been great. I wish, he should have come on the front end. I think, that's what we got to get these guys to do, these local guys, is to come to TCU, their freshman year. And I'm sure he had a great experience in Notre Dame, but we're glad he's here. We want to try to keep as many DFW players close to home as we can. Yeah, he's exactly what I talked about. He's a mature, intelligent, focused, prepared, guy that's very serious about his, his craft. Whatever it is he does, whether it's academics or if it's an internship somewhere or if it's weightlifting or if it's a meeting or if it's practice, that dude's going to be dialed in. He's just one of those guys. He's going to be incredibly successful with whatever he decides that he wants to do whenever football's done. And it's just because of his, again, maturity and work ethic and focus. And I'm excited about him. He loves to play football. I think he appreciates playing at home in front of his family. I think he really likes this team and the character and the makeup of the team. And, I think that he's, he likes the culture of TCU football. And so he's one of those guys that's going to make it better. And so, when you start talking about leadership and, it's not typically guys that are here for a year, but a lot of times it is. And he's one of those guys that's certainly capable of being a great leader for us.
Coach, when you listen to Stanford talk here early on, all they're talking about is being physical and the physical style that they want to play. You see that from Kansas State, you see it from Iowa State.
Yep.
But do you have to prepare for that in game one differently?
Yeah, football. There's two things I think that really, big things that really matter in football, and it's line play and quarterback play. And those are the two things. Now you can, within those things, turnovers and all that. But if you have really good quarterback play, normally you have a really good team. If you're usually really good up front, then you're normally going to have a really good team. I've never seen a good football team that didn't have a great offensive line. I mean, it just doesn't happen. And so the game is a tough game. It's a physical game, and most often it's one up front. And so, you know, Stanford has a history of having those kind of players and those kind of teams. And so I'm sure that's their identity and the way they're going to try to build their program. And so, you know, it's the same thing with us. I mean, you look at us and, you know, any kind of success we've ever had through the years, you know, the most successful teams have had two things in common. We had really good quarterback play and we had really good offensive line play. And those two things really contribute to each other. You know, I mean, it's easy for your quarterback if he's got protection. He can sit back there and throw and pick people apart. And so, you know, at the end of the day, I mean, I can't tell you how important that is. And so, you know, that's the thing with us. I mean, we want to be a very physical football team. We did not run the football well last year. It was, you know, we were very disappointed in our ability to do it. That's why we were so bad in the red zone. You know, you go back and again look at those red zone numbers. They were really, really bad. And it all had to do with our inability to run the ball and our ability to turn it over, which we did a lot in the red zone. You know, you look at the Colorado game in particular. I mean, two critical red zone turnovers, and that's a different ball game. And you know, but those are all lessons that we've learned, and things that our job as coaches is to emphasize those to make sure our players don't make those same mistakes.
Coach, we heard from the guys yesterday about the depth on the team. Is that something you guys hyped on in the offseason by getting just more depth based off injuries last year?
Yeah. I mean, we need it. I mean, you know, there's college football is just, you know, you're gonna have injuries. Unfortunately, I mean, it's just part of the nature of the game, and guys are gonna get banged up. And what depth does is create competition. Competition brings out the best in everybody. Doesn't matter if you're playing football or selling cars or whatever it is. You know, if there's competition, then it's going to raise the temperature in the room, and everybody's going to perform better. And so that's just the way that it is. And you know, and when you can take somebody out of a game, you know, if you're a defensive lineman, let's say if you're the 3 technique and you've got to play 60 snaps, you know, 30 of those snaps you're just going to be hanging on. You know what I mean? And now if you're a 3 technique and you can play 30 snaps a game, you can play hard for all 30 snaps. I mean, as hard as you can play with your hair on fire. And so that's going to really be a big deal for us, is building that kind of depth, so that when we, you know, get into games, and we get into these games in August and September and early October that are hot, you know, that we can rotate a lot of guys and, you know, keep people fresh and make sure that when they're playing, we're getting their very best. And it's not just trying to hang on and survive and get through a drive. I mean, it's a guy that's out there performing at his optimum level because he's in shape and he's not having to play 80, 90 snaps.
You've been here now a couple of years. When you first got here, Coach Keller's one of the guys you wanted to keep on the staff. I guess what went into that decision back then, and how's it been just working with him? How's he as a teacher?
Yeah, good. I mean, Malcolm's done a really good job. I mean, you know, you look at the players that he's developed and his history, and you know, obviously got experience playing the position, does a good job recruiting. You know, I think Malcolm is really, you know, dialed in this year. I think mentally, I think he's ready to go. I think he's excited about his group. You know, he's got some young guys that I really think he's excited about how he can develop them. And you know, the expectations for some of those young guys, I think, are pretty high. And then he's got, you know, we got a guy like Savion that has shown flashes of being one of the most dominant receivers in college football, but hasn't done it consistently. And, you know, for a variety of reasons, some in his control and some out of his control. And so, you know, I think like anything else, when you got a guy like him, you want him to play at his very best week in, week out. And I think that's going to be the challenge for us, is how can we get him mentally, physically, to go out there and to play his very best, you know, for 15 games this year, 16 games, whatever it is. You know, that's the goal. And so I know Malcolm's excited for that challenge. I know he's put a lot of time and work into you know, putting Savion in the best position that he could be put into to go out and be successful. And you know, and we're looking for consistency at those 2 outside receiver spots. You know, guys that down in and down out can make plays and make plays in big points in big ball games.
Coach, you mentioned the running game a moment ago, and I know that in the spring you were really impressed with Cam Cook and what he brought to the table. What about him gets you so excited about him?
Yeah, I think the big thing that Cam's got is big play potential. You know what I mean? I think you look at last year, we were, our numbers running the ball weren't that bad. It just, we didn't run it as well in critical situations. And then also, too, we just didn't have a lot of big plays. The year before, we had a lot of long touchdown runs, and we just didn't have that kind of personnel last year. And I think Cam is one of those players that is capable of, 60, 70-yard touchdown at any point. And I think that's kind of what we're excited about.
Coach,
Talked about the O-line on how important line play is. You were able to get that experience you're looking for.
Yep.
What is the challenge of making sure that they're in sync and doing it?
Yeah. I mean, look, I love the fact that we've got a lot of experience in the room. I don't love the fact that experience was somewhere else. You know what I mean? You look at all these guys that they've all played a lot of football. They just haven't played a lot of football together. And so that's going to be the challenge for us, is to get those guys on the same page. Because again, those offensive lines that I talked about earlier weren't great because they were great individually. They were great because they were great collectively. And the guys played off of each other and knew each other's strengths and weaknesses and pushed each other. And so, the chemistry in the room is always very important. The leadership in the room is always very important. Your football team gets its toughness from that group. If that's, those guys are usually the players that provide a little bit of an edge for your team. And so, as that group goes along, they've also got to learn how to play together and communicate and, take care of each other.
how big is that cornerback battle right now?
It's good. I'm excited. We have a lot of bodies, different kinds of guys that have different strengths, and we've got some young guys that really nobody knows who they are. I think that can compete. I'm excited to see Vernon Glover. He's a guy that I keep waiting for him, and I think it's I think he's starting to get ready. And so there's a group of those guys. LJ, I think, has had a good camp and competes hard. There's just a bunch of guys. Avery Helm is like a different person. He's just, it's his, he's got some confidence, he's got maturity, he's just got the stuff that those guys have, the great ones have. Corner's one of those positions, it's just, you gotta have a short memory, you gotta have confidence, you gotta really truly believe in yourself, and you gotta fight and scratch and compete, and that's what makes the great ones great. And I think Avery has learned that. And so I'm anxious to see all this stuff play out. And again, love the depth, love the length, love the competition there, and anxious to see how it plays out.
I know
When you got here in the beginning, you established your culture and expectations, and then you had this year with 40+ new players. What is that process like?
Yeah, it's hard. Again, you've got to have players that are welcoming, first of all, and understand, hey, it's a different world. We're going to have a lot of new players, and then you got to have guys that, believe in TCU and appreciate TCU, and you got to have guys like Chase Curtis that, has fought and scratched and, earned everything he's gotten since he's been here, and those guys come in and they see somebody like him, and and he sets the tempo and and creates the expectations for those guys. And you have to have those kind of players and those older guys that have bled purple for a long time. You know what I mean? And they have to be welcoming to those new players, and those new players have to come in with the right frame of mind, and all that has to occur. In most of it in the weight room. Just because of the timing of everything, and your team has to be intentional about getting to know those players, spend time with those guys, invest in them, and if you do, then you're going to get a return, and if you don't, then you're going to have a fractured team, and I think that was part of our issues last year.
We'll go 2 more questions.
Coach, how will the technology aspect change the game? Like, will we see
Yeah, a lot.
Malzahn's muddle huddles?
Yeah, a lot more stuff like that. I think because of communication now, I think you're going to see teams huddle more. Because now the helmet communication with the quarterback and more muddle huddles and people coming to the line and, just doing a lot of things to take advantage of that communication. And we certainly want to be one of the teams at the forefront of that as well. And, we're going to get about a week's worth of practice in, and then we'll start, practicing using, the surfaces during practice on the field, and that's something that we're going to have to practice as coaches, is being accustomed to watching those plays, understanding the technology, being able to navigate those screens, getting our players comfortable with that. And you'll see a lot of times as we go from the first group to the second group in practice, the line coach will take those guys over to a bench, sit down, show them the video, coach on the field just like they'll do in the game. And you have to, it's like anything else, you have to prepare yourself to teach with those tools, and you have to prepare your players to be able to absorb that information that they're going to have a chance to see, and then to take that information and do something with it. It's one thing to sit there and look at it, and if it's not improving the quality of your play, then what's the point? And so I think it's like anything else. So there'll be a learning process, and we're going to have to start practicing pretty quickly to master it.
You said last season that you felt like you didn't have the team ready at times.
Yep.
What have you done this season to kind of change?
Well, I think I think it starts with us as coaches. I mean, just making sure we're ready. What I mean by that is just that we're as detailed and knowledgeable as we need to be. And I just don't think I did a very good job getting everybody on the same page last year. And so, we worked really hard to correct that in the off season. And that's where it all starts, is with us and filters to the players. And so that's been the biggest adjustment.